Hello and welcome to Thursday Night Talk. This is a show where we discuss the week in Humboldt, the local issues with the local personalities. Sometimes we talk about local personalities. I'm Talvi Fried and I'll be your local host for the next hour. With the world as it currently is right now, what could a city like Eureka really use right now? Maybe something to uplift us? Who would have thought? Well, Uplift Eureka is a program from the City of Eureka that supports community members experiencing houselessness in, not just those who are experiencing houselessness, but we'll get into that in accessing vital community resources through Uplift's Housing Assistance Program. There's employment programming, community outreach, resource navigation assistance, all sorts of things. And we'll get into all of that and who is eligible, as well how to access what they have available. Uplift Eureka's programs are designed to ensure individuals can access those resources needed to empower themselves to have a better quality of life. So that's just sounds really positive. Here to talk about how Uplift Eureka does all of this is Sierra Wood, the Homeless Services Supervisor for the City of Eureka, Jeff Davis, the Special Projects Manager for the City of Eureka, as well the Uplift Programs Supervisor, and Cynthia Bowman, Resource Center Coordinator for Uplift Eureka. And I believe all are involved with the City of Eureka. As well as the Uplift program, hence why you're on the show talking about Uplift Eureka. If you are listening to us right now and decide that you have a question for any of our guests, please text those questions to 707-498-4146. Again, that's 498-4146. So welcome, everybody.
Thank you. Welcome.
Yes, I'm excited about this program just because I live in Eureka, and the question is constantly asked, what are we going to do about the economy, about people on the streets, about people in homes who may end up on the streets if some magical world or experience doesn't happen to them. So it sounds like here's Uplift Eureka to help. So what is Uplift Eureka? Let's start there.
So I guess a little brief history or overview of where we started. So back in 2014, the City of Eureka's, at that time was the Parks and Recreation Department, started this program called CAPE, which is the Community Access Project for Eureka. And it was really focused on providing youth programming, such as, nutrition programs, literacy programs, scholarships to like hoopsters and other city events, and we really it did a lot of good things. It improved the quality of life, but those sort of things can only go so far if with other underlying conditions. If someone's experiencing homelessness or is experiencing food insecurity, there's not the basketball scholarship is great, but that's really not getting to the core issue. So the city decided to start this program called Pathway to Payday, and we had a great success with that. We still do those Pathway to Paydays, and then about 2018. We decided to take that Pathway to Payday program and create some other programs that kind of work and complement each other, and created this thing called Uplift Eureka. And so currently we provide, we have a rapid rehousing program, we have a street-based outreach team, we have employment programs, and we just we do quite a few other things, but we just launched a brand new resource center that's open to everyone in the community.
So that is one question I do want to ask really quickly, because I have quite a few friends that are going through transitions in their life, as everybody does. Some of these are, say, militant folks who left military jobs, or are people who are just looking for a career change, or say retired, realize that the economy is collapsing, their retirement's not going to be funding as much as they'd like. And some of them don't only live in Eureka, they live in Arcata or Trinidad. Is Uplift Eureka available to everyone?
Yeah, we provide our services. It's run through the City of Eureka, but a lot of this is grant funded, and the grant funding requires us to provide these, a lot of these services to the entire county. So we provide, we've housed folks all over the county, and they would be eligible for a rapid rehousing program. We conduct our outreach in, Eureka, Arcata, Trinidad, McKinley, but we kind of go, it's mainly in Eureka, but we do travel some and conduct outreach services in other cities. And then, yeah, the resource center is open to anyone.
Yeah, the nice thing about the Resource Center is it's designed to be low to no barrier. So no matter what somebody's coming in for, even if it's not something we have a specific program developed for, we'll work to ensure that they get connected to the appropriate resources, or that we can dive in with them on something and try and give them the information that they need to move forward.
Which, Sierra, as you are the homeless services coordinator, and I know that's before we get into everything else that this does, I kind of like to start with, let's say somebody walks in to well, or it's somebody, I'm not sure how it exactly works. Like, are you notified that there's somebody in need, or is it somebody in need has to come there?
Yeah, I mean, we get referrals from a lot of different routes. So I'll let Cynthia talk more about folks coming to the Resource Center. But as far as connecting with our programs, I mean, the Resource Center only recently opened. So beforehand, we take referrals from partnering organizations that are maybe somebody got a caseworker through Open Door and is needing employment services. So they'll refer them to us for one of our programs. Folks that are experiencing homelessness are typically using one of a couple different resource sites for food and other sorts of things. So oftentimes our outreach workers will be down there building relationships and making those warm handoffs to our other specific programs, whether that's for housing or employment. So we get a lot of referrals through partnering agencies. We also are available if anyone wants to call us directly or apply to our employment programs on our website. So, I mean, really the purpose of our different programs is we want things to be accessible. So maybe somebody's not able to apply to something online, but they can make a phone call, or they can talk to a friend and have them drive them to the Resource Center to come in person and speak with us. We want things to be as easy as possible for folks to get connected.
Where, like with the rapid rehousing, where are these houses and how does that work?
So currently the City of Eureka doesn't actually own our own housing. What we do instead is we will work with private landlords and connect folks with housing. And so we can assist with securing housing, providing assistance with security deposits and rental assistance, and connect them with that housing. And in addition to that, we provide supportive services to make sure that somebody can stabilize and maintain that housing, whether that's getting them Social Security income, getting them work so that they can continue to pay rent, connecting them with health and medical resources, those sorts of things.
Okay, so Cynthia, as the Resource Center coordinator, I mean, that sounds like a doozy of a job with all of these factors playing in, though. When a person comes in or is referred, what's the next step after that?
Well, we try to get to know them. The first thing we try to do is establish a relationship. So they come in, I or one of the associates here sit down with them and kind of talk, take a broad look at what's going on in their lives and what they need, and then prioritize that. Most of the folks that come into the Resource Center, not most, but a lot of the folks that come into the Resource Center have been on the street for a long time and don't have ID, hence they can't get a job, they can't get a house, they can't do anything. You can't really get anything done without ID. So that's frequently where we start. And once they've got their identification, then we can kind of start thinking about housing. And currently we are having weekly, Sierra has weekly housing workshops that we're conducting. And then we're going to be having employment workshops as well. And so they can avail themselves of that, or they can just sit down at one of our computers with one of our associates and do a housing search.
And another goal of the Resource Center is, somebody isn't required to sign up for one service to be eligible for something else. All of our programs really work in tandem and try and complement each other. So maybe somebody is really interested in the housing workshops, but they're not interested in seeking employment services. We don't try and push anything on anyone. We really operate from a housing first principle, as well as, trauma informed practice to make sure we're meeting folks' needs in a supportive and welcoming way.
So I was reading all the websites and everything I could find, and that was one thing that I was curious about. The care team, which is the crisis alternative response of Eureka, which I'm not exactly sure what that really is, as well as the trauma response. Was it treatment or
So what I mentioned was just a way of connecting with folks. Trauma-informed practice pretty much just means working with somebody in a way that is validating and not going to maybe trigger somebody or cause more harm and trauma. The community alternative response of Eureka, I'll let Jeff talk about that program if that works for you.
Yeah, so our care team, it's a pretty new team. It's about a year and a half old, I think. And yeah, it's a team of clinicians and mental health caseworkers that can provide assistance. They're working with the police. I believe next week they're going to be able to respond to calls of service when appropriate. And so for certain calls of service, it might be more appropriate to dispatch a clinician and a caseworker rather than an officer. And so that's kind of the next step. And I believe that's starting next week. And so, yeah, they're able to go and meet folks where they are and provide that support and that assistance. And we've had tremendous success with that program.
And you said that's going to be starting next week. That care response is going to be kind of showing up with the other first responders.
So it's been going on for over a year and a half, right? And so, but they aren't being dispatched out. So right now, an officer would show up, kind of assess the situation, and then call for them to arrive at to the scene or to where the call is. And so I believe starting next week, they're going to be able. The dispatch is going to be able to directly send them out rather than having either a co-response or a police officer, respond and then call for their call them in. So yeah, it's really exciting. And yeah, that team is really built up, and yeah, they're just doing fantastic work.
It's a really good way also just to free up police time and ensure that folks that are maybe not at risk of committing a crime, but are just having some kind of mental health crisis to get the help and support that they need rather than, being arrested for something that they're going through and not able to solve on their own.
And I think it's also kind of diverting people away from the emergency room when it's not, when it's not really a medical emergency. Some folks just, show up at the ER because they're having a mental health crisis. And this team's been able to kind of step in and provide that service and really alleviate some of the pressure and some of the stress that's been on our local emergency department.
Interesting information. I mean, that I don't think there's a single first responder or medical care individual that doesn't agree that the emergency rooms are overrun, and often there are people in there that it's just not the right space for them. That's, they're not that they're wasting everybody's time, but they're not being serviced or given what they need, which sounds like social workers and mental health professionals are
yeah, I mean, we want people to be connected to the most supportive resources for them where they're going to have the most success. So whether that means connecting somebody to a mental health professional or calling a crisis line, we want to make sure that we take the right route for that person, keeping their best interests in mind.
So does a person need to be in crisis to go in there? Like, does a person, I mean, I know I asked earlier about what if somebody just wants a career change, but it's kind of I do know a lot of people who are very proud of what they've done in life, and they see it as almost a regression, having to go back and get services to rewrite a resume, or to feel like that. Some people just don't feel like they're qualified for services, especially when there's this light on those services, like, oh, this is for somebody who's houseless. This is
Yeah.
for somebody who's in a crisis. So I kind of am wondering what the feeling is like, because what I was reading, it said for no income, low income, and middle income.
Yeah. So I mean, the care team operates more on an outreach basis, and so they will be responding to calls rather than having an office where folks can come in if they're experiencing that crisis. The resource center is more a space for someone who is really interested in seeking resources, no matter what stage they're at. So if they're new to employment, fresh out of high school, maybe have been a stay-at-home caregiver for a long time and are ready to get back into the workforce, or if, like you said, they've been in a career for a long time and are wanting to make a change, but haven't had a resume or done an interview in a long time and need a refresher. Those are all different types of folks that we would serve here, and try and make sure that our workshops and the services offered can meet those individual needs.
Cynthia, I know you're as the kind of resource center coordinator, I'm sure you deal with many of the individuals who seek resources on a possibly daily basis. And I'm wondering what you're seeing as a trend in Eureka right now.
We're seeing a wide variety of people. Today we saw a 69-year-old woman who had been retired, who retired years ago, and due to the economic situation, needs to go back to work. So we were able to make some suggestions. She also wanted to change her housing situation. So we could help her with suggestions about senior housing. And we also discussed employment opportunities. And I think she's going to come back next week to talk to Sierra about interviews and interview tips and stuff like that. But she'll come back to us and we will sit down with her. And really, as I said, the way I operate is I sit down and have a conversation with them. And it's not specifically about what they need right now. It's about what's going on in general in their lives and what they need our help for. We're trying to empower people. So I don't want to be the principal. I want to be in the classroom with everybody else. So today we saw that woman, and then we also yesterday we saw a couple of kids that were high school kids that heard about us from somewhere and came in and just wanted to look around. And we had a conversation about Narcan and about the Raven Project, which is specifically designed for youth in Eureka. And they ended up taking some of our brochures to school and posted them. And within an hour, I got a call from another kid from Eureka High. So we're seeing everyone from high school students to seniors. And we're seeing them for a variety of reasons. Some are looking for jobs, some are looking for houses, some are looking for a dentist or a lawyer. There are women and men that are fleeing domestic violence that need, shelter and need legal advice, and we can help them with that. So it's a wide range. I multitask.
Yeah, we definitely have big ambitions for all the services we want to provide. Obviously, we can't be experts on all of these things, but I mean, that's really what all of us are passionate about, is making sure that whatever that person needs, no matter what it is, at least we can provide some insight or guide them in the right direction.
And we will talk about the other services that are available, as well as I'm interested in more of the history of Eureka, because of course I am. Right after this quick break, you're listening to Thursday Night Talk, and we're talking about the new resource center that just opened up in Eureka called Uplift Eureka. Welcome back to Thursday Night Talk. I'm your local host, Talvi Fried. We are discussing Uplift Eureka, which is a new resource center, of course, in Eureka. The exact, I guess it's okay. It's not like whoever would like to go and visit, please go visit it. 1111 E Street, Eureka, California. The hours, this is just what I got off the website, are 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., but Tuesdays and Thursdays are the times that people can go in there to kind of do an intake. I believe that was like 11 to 1.
So coordinated intake is a specific service for folks who are experiencing homelessness. So anyone is welcome to the resource center anytime we're open, Monday to Friday, 10 to 2. Those specific hours on Tuesdays are specifically for coordinated entry intake, but that doesn't have to do with accessing the resource centers.
Okay. Well, thank you, Sierra. I'm here with Sierra Wood, the Homeless Services Coordinator for Uplift Eureka, Jeff Davis, Supervisor of Uplift Programming and Special Projects Supervisor for the City of Eureka, as well as Cynthia Brown, who is the Resource Center Coordinator. We did discuss a little bit about who the program is for, as well as what it entails. And right before, you had mentioned that youth had come in and spoke about the Raven Project, Cynthia, which I want to kind of ask because it sounds like this is, it's a resource center. So it's not you're going to find all of the solutions there. You're going to find the pathways towards solutions, is what it sounds like. What other collaborations are there with Uplift Eureka?
Well, we work very closely with all of our community partners. Jeff and I went around the city before we opened officially and kind of introduced ourselves and introduced the resource center to 15 different organizations. And that includes Open Door, it includes the Jefferson Center, it includes Food for People. So the idea is, as far as I'm concerned, the idea is that somebody comes in with a specific need and they leave with what they came to get. You know, we don't just give them a phone number and say, okay, call the Jefferson Center, go get it. We make a call and help facilitate that whatever needs to get taken care of, we make sure that it gets taken care of. We don't just give them a phone number, we give them a solution. And I'm passionate about that.
So I've noticed with alternatively minded people, people who are neurospicy in certain ways, they often, there's an introversion factor or almost a fear of reaching out.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering, how do you help with those situations where a person does not have the best ability to speak up for themselves? I'm not sure if I'm wording this correctly.
Well, I know what you mean, and I think it's more about us learning to listen. As you know, it's as important for us to listen as it is for them to speak. So if they're not entirely articulate, I just listen more carefully, and we together learn how to communicate. I haven't had, part of the thing about having a trauma-informed space is developing trust and working collaboratively. You don't want to be the leader, you want to be part of a team with someone. And so when you're working like that, you develop a relationship, a meaningful relationship. I really care about them, and hopefully they care about me. So we get a lot more accomplished that way.
Working with folks who are neurodivergent, that's something I'm really passionate about. And I've found, we've had a lot of folks with ADHD or autism or other sorts of things along those lines complete our employment programs like Pathway to Payday, which I can talk about a little bit more. And I think really what works best for me is recognizing each person has a different way of learning, whether that's working on a resume together and letting them take the lead and work on their own, or being really involved and doing it one step at a time together. It helps me to just recognize there's different ways that people are going to find success, and we're not, you know, saying this is, it's my way or the highway. There's multiple methods of accessing resources online, on the phone, in person. And so having those multiple methods available at the resource center, working on yourself by yourself on the computer, working with a staff member, having that flexibility is really nice for us to have.
Fantastic. You had mentioned Pathway to Payday, and I know Jeff had mentioned that while he was discussing the history of how Uplift Eureka came to be. I do want to say that if anybody currently listening has any questions for our guests, please text your questions or even commentary to 707-498-4146. Again, that's 707-498-4146. But what is Pathway to Payday exactly?
So Pathway to Payday is one of our bigger employment programs that we've run. And like Jeff said, it's been going on for many years now. But it's basically a 4-day program held a couple different times a year that works to connect community members that are looking for work with businesses that are looking to hire. And so each day of the program walks participants through workshops designed to learn more about selling your skills in an interview, building up your confidence walking into an interview and applying for jobs. The second day focuses exclusively on mock interview practice. And so participants will go through a series of mock interviews with different volunteers from the County of Humboldt and other community members. The third day, though, is really what makes the program unique. Unlike other employment workshops, we connect directly with local businesses that have open positions and invite them down on site to the Pathway to Payday event sites and come down and interview participants. So we have a whole schedule set up where participants will let us know who they'd like to interview with and for what position. And we just have back-to-back interviews running all day. We get that feedback from businesses on if they're interested in hiring anyone they interviewed and generally how they felt that they did, if they thought they needed to make more eye contact, if they thought they did really well at selling their skills. We compile that feedback for each interview somebody completed and give that to them on the 4th day with a final workshop that talks more about next steps in following up with an employer, completing second interviews and starting a new job, all really with the goal of making sure somebody feels really confident in their ability to go through that process on their own. And I mean, hopefully walk out of the program with a job offer from one of those businesses.
Yeah, we've been Pathway to Payday. I think this is the 10th year that we've been operating this program, and we've done this in collaboration with the Betty Quan Chin Foundation and also the Humboldt County Department of Health and Human Services. Those are two just really great partners that we've and I think it's a great example of just, when we can work collaboratively with other agencies, we can, have a more impact and really have, find greater success.
With businesses as well, I mean, we really want to involve as many people as possible. This is about building and uplifting the community and allowing businesses to have an opportunity to reach their community members and involve them in that hiring process. It really tries to erase barriers. Going through that application process can be so daunting, but actually getting to sit down face to face with an employer and have that in-person real connection can really facilitate job offers and really positive experiences with new employees.
I am curious with because there's the element of, yes, people need housing, and then people also need a job to afford that housing. And I'm noticing a trend with people who haven't had jobs in a long time, people who are switching careers, or the economy is terrible. I'm wondering how, especially mentioning high school students who are coming out, and oftentimes not everyone gets to stay with family. They don't have that privilege, and that is a privilege. If you have family that takes care of you in any way, that is a blessing. And some people might have that, but it's not appropriate for them to stay in contact with that. So, if you're blessed, and that's awesome. If you're not, I'm kind of wondering like how is the housing affordable, and how are the jobs paying the housing right now, plus all the food and et cetera, et cetera. Because there's a lot that goes into living on your own. And I'm just curious, like I'm trying to see the big picture of how somebody can go from maybe not from either never having lived on their own or from living on the street to being fully efficient, because most
Yeah,
people I
it's
know who are adults and supposedly self-sufficient have like 5 jobs.
it's definitely a huge challenge. I mean, even if somebody's working full-time minimum wage, if they have children, if they have extra expenses, I mean, even just affording a 1 bedroom and not having to go into shared living could be super expensive. Um, so I mean, from the starting point of folks looking for work, if they're experiencing homelessness, our partnership with Betty Chin allows us to help those folks that are participating in Pathway to Payday with at least getting things taken care of, like getting interview clothes, getting a shower before they interview, potentially getting a bus pass so that they can get to an interview off-site, those sorts of things that might be huge barriers. In terms of starting that job, you know, we can provide support with making sure that they have their identification documents, knowing what to expect, those sorts of things. And then housing is that real challenge. Even once they're getting that paycheck, it can be difficult to find housing that's affordable and to make sure that you stand out and you actually get that instead of another applicant. So maybe Cynthia could talk a little bit about our housing workshops, which are something new that we're offering and hoping that can kind of be an extra support for folks that are looking for housing.
Yeah, I actually participated. Sierra actually, well, the program is excellent. We have people coming in, and we start at the very beginning. What makes you a good applicant? What makes you stand out? What if you have a bad, or not a bad, but a complicated rental history that involves an eviction, or you have a criminal record? So we try to teach people the skills they need to stand out in a crowd and to navigate around any problems they might have. And we're going to be having these things every week. And we're going to be having guest speakers from the Housing Authority. We're going to be having private landlords as well as property management folks come in, because there is a difference. There are private landlords and there's property management, and each of them kind of operate differently. And people that have been on the street for a long time may not know the difference at all. So we're explaining that. And anybody's welcome to come. It's at 10:30 on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
Here, 10:30 on Wednesdays. And we just had our first one, and it was fantastic. We did about 30 minutes of what the first thing you worry about. Where do I want to live? Where do I have transportation? How am I going to get to a job? How am I going to get my kids to school? How close am I to a shopping center or to medical facilities? So that's stuff that people don't think about right off the bat. So we try to encourage them to think about those things, work through a budget. Budgets are super important. If you've not lived independently before, or if you're living independently for the first time in many years, you need to know how much you can really afford. And you might like a $2,000 a month place, but you can only afford a $750 a month place. And it's a good thing to find that out before you move your stuff in and think you're settled in.
And I think connecting the people to resources that they're eligible for too. You talked about like the cost of food. So if someone's eligible for CalFresh, we can get them signed up for that. If they're eligible for a housing subsidy voucher from the Housing Authority, we can, walk them through that process and help them sign up for that. There's the free phones that are out there that are being offered. And so, yeah, just kind of looking at that budget and then figuring out what programs they're eligible for and connecting them with those services and helping them fill out those applications and try to reduce the yeah, try to reduce, their overall expenses while trying to increase their income.
And I think those applications can be very stressful for anyone, but in particular, I think they're stressful for people that haven't been dealing with applications for a while. So it's nice to kind of, it takes a village. It really does take a village. And so it's nice to have somebody here to support them and then also get out of the way once they're on their way.
That is something that I do want to kind of iterate. There were a few positions open, not just in Eureka, but also Arcata, that me and another friend were trying to recommend to everybody we know, because we're like, this is your personality, this is a perfect job for you. And they were so afraid that their resumes weren't perfect that they never turned the resume in. And who's gonna get hired for those positions? I don't know. But it's not going to be my, friends that didn't apply. And I think that, that intimidation factor of, if you haven't done it for a while, or even if you have, the fear of rejection is very strong for people. So I'm kind of liking I think that's rejection can be a type of trauma. I'm loving the term trauma informed space here. And I'm like, oh gosh, I need to take a class on that just so I can quit being a jerk sometimes with my work. Because sometimes I can be spicy, and that's not helpful
about the rejection though. That's what I love about Pathway to Payday, is that a lot of people come into that program having faced that rejection from jobs over and over, and they're just at a point where they're losing that motivation to continue looking for work. So when you bring a group of people in a room together who are all different ages and maybe have all different sorts of experience and live in different towns, but all have that same goal and all have that shared experience of having a hard time finding work, because it's a challenge for anyone, it really just boosts that feeling of support, and like you're not alone in that situation. There's such a wonderful sense of community that comes out of the program, and just really helps to build people's confidence in themselves and empower them to recognize the value that they do have, and that it is okay to apply for that job even if you don't have all the experience, because what's the worst that's going to happen? You get another no, but you've already been getting them, so you might get that yes.
Today, Sierra, I participated in a mini workshop that Sierra had on interview tips and tricks. And it was really informative, even for me, and I've done plenty of interviews in my day. There are some things that you can do to make you stand out. Even if you're not entirely qualified for the job, Sierra can teach you how to make it seem like you could become, you could evolve into that job. So there are ways to get around that. And it is very confidence building. I frankly walked out of that class feeling much better than I did walking in.
Before we go to our next break, what's a quick tip on interviewing?
Just always recognize that the employer is also nervous, and it's okay to be nervous, because it's not a natural thing. And so just let go of that anxiety, because you're going to be nervous anyways. So just accept it.
That's great. I love that. We'll be right back. We're talking to some amazing people who are essentially running collaboratively Uplift Eureka. If you just tuned in and are like, what's Uplift Eureka? Don't worry. We'll be right back after a quick break. Welcome back to Thursday Night Talk. We've got about 10 minutes. This is our last Our last segment with the folks from Uplift Eureka. We've got Sierra Wood, Homeless Services Coordinator, Jeff Davis, Supervisor of Uplift Programming, as well as Special Projects Manager for the City of Eureka. We've got Cynthia Brown, Resource Center Coordinator. I feel like I've learned quite a bit here, which is great. And I appreciate talking to all three of you because there's this sense Bowman, I'm sorry, Cynthia Bowman. I don't know why I wrote that down there. Oh well, because I'm a space cadet, but we're all in a safe space here, and I'm allowed to make mistakes. Cynthia Bowman, Resource Center Coordinator,
Thank you.
and Uplift Eureka is something for those who are searching for resources to essentially just better their lives. Be they in a houseless situation, in a, oh no, I lost a job situation, in a, I haven't worked in a long time situation. I heard mentions of healthcare and dental and youth programs, senior programs. So there's a lot going on there. Please tune in to, if you're just tuning in and you're like, oh, I want to know all about this, uplifteureka.com is a great way to find out more, or you can give them a call during the daytime. I assume is best, 707-441-4242. That is the number for Uplift Eureka. We were discussing quite a bit. We went through the history of programs in Eureka a little bit. I wish we had time to go through more, because I know especially with the mayor's goal, I forget what it's called, but when Kim Burgell became mayor some odd years ago, her goal was improving the mental health of Eureka. And I definitely think that this is something, just hearing terms like trauma-informed space sounds like we're doing some great project here, or we're doing progress. So 2019, there were 653 homeless in Eureka during the point in time count. I'm not sure what those numbers are now, though. For those who are working within Uplift Eureka, aka Cynthia, Sierra, and Jeff, how do you feel those numbers are coming along here in town?
Definitely,
What was that?
definitely a famous question.
Excuse me. So yeah, I think Uplift Eureka alone since 2019, we've housed over 200 individuals here, and through our rapid rehousing program. We've also had a homelessness prevention program where we would, for folks that were eligible, we would be able to step in and prevent them from sliding into homelessness. The numbers, I think this year's point in time count, the numbers, I think there was a decrease in Eureka, an increase in other parts of the county. And so I think it's, we try to work with one client at a time, one person at a time, and move forward that way. It's a challenge though. There is a housing crisis, right? There's a housing shortage. The city has been working really hard to increase the housing stock here, especially low and very low income housing. The city of Eureka last year earned the pro housing designation, which I think there's only, maybe 37 or 38 cities and counties in the entire state have earned that designation. And so, and we're not done yet. There's quite a few housing projects that are going to be, kicking off this year and next year. And so, yeah, we're just kind of approaching this at every different angle and trying to uplift and empower as many community members as possible.
Can you go a little bit into what those housing projects that are coming up in the next few years are?
Yeah, there's like Link Housing. There's three projects in particular where we're converting parking lots into housing. So there's one out on like Myrtle Avenue. There's one, I think it's 8th and G Street. And there's a few more throughout town that we're working with other contractors on. There's a Sunset Heights, and that's kind of on that little bluff overlooking Broadway between O'Hare's and Henderson. And so that's just a few projects. We're also really close to opening up a transitional housing project out on Hillficker Lane. That's going to house up to 40 individuals. And so that should be open in the next, I hope, month or hopefully in the next month that will be up and running. And so we're just, just kind of keeping steady and just, trying to increase our housing stock. And I know the Housing Authority is also has a big project right now where they're going to be increasing the number of units and also kind of the quality of some of the units.
So by transitional housing, the one on Hillfigure, when I hear transitional, I as most people do, tend to think short term.
Yeah, so I believe this one will be a 1 year. Folks would have 1 year to find housing, and it's going to be a place where folks there's gonna be a lot of services delivered and offered there on site. So it's a 1 year lease. It's a 1 year kind of time limit. But we're gonna be delivering quite a few services out there. We're gonna be working with them from day one on either getting into a rapid rehousing program or permanent supportive housing, or just whatever it takes to get those folks housed.
So for the other housing projects, are these all low income housing projects, or is it, so what demographic are we trying to serve with all of these?
Yeah, and this really isn't my area of expertise, but I think one of the there is like a state mandate where we have to have a certain number of low income housing, and so that's what we're going for is low income and very low income. So most of those projects, I believe, are either entirely or primarily low income housing. And then we're also working with other developers to develop private lands, and so there's a few other spots that are going to be open. That's outside of, it's not actually a city project, but the city is trying to I don't know, make it easier for contractors and property owners to expand and build, whether it's whole new complexes or ADUs. We really want to try to have as many housing opportunities as possible.
All right. Cool. Well, thank you for that information. There's about one more question, or time for one more question I can ask, and I'm just gonna ask this one, and then we're gonna get into the round robin where everybody's gonna have a few minutes. So, final question I kind of get to ask is, where's all the funding coming from for these projects, and are all the budget cuts on a federal level going to affect any of this?
So when we started CAPE, none of it came from the general fund. It was all off of donations and fundraisers. We still do continue to have fundraisers and donations, but yeah, primarily it's through grants. And so most of the grants that we received are state grants. We've had a couple federal grants. The ones that we're utilizing right now are state grants. And yeah, it's kind of it's uncertain how things outside of Eureka are going to be impacting us here down the road. But we've been very resourceful. We've been we've kind of we create innovative programs. We're in a place where we try things that haven't been tried before, and so I'm sure we'll be able to either keep continuing these to secure these fundings, or find other ways. Maybe we can rely heavily on fundraising down the road and working with different partners with different projects. But yeah, there's a few of us our salaries come out of the general fund, so the city really is kind of stepping up, and each year is kind of putting more money into this, but also the CARE program, and then the police department CSET team. These three programs work really closely with each other and really have the same goals. And it's just been it's been great to watch these programs kind of evolve and develop, and yeah, so mainly it's grant funding, and we'll figure out a way to keep these things going.
So you mentioned CSET, which isn't something that we talked about much. Can you just real quick let people know what CSET is?
Yeah, it's so the CSET is the police department's, their division. It's the community safety engagement team, and it's a group of proactive police that go out and really can. It's kind of they have patrol officers that just get responded to call after call after call, and they kind of have to run around and do that. these CSET officers are able to kind of take the time, get to the root of the cause, and really sit down and invest in those times and find, good outcomes. There's, the officers, the Old Town officer, there's a couple waterfront rangers. And so it's a really great a team that was began the same year that Uplift Eureka began. And it's just been great to see both of these programs kind of, working very closely together, but then also evolving and turning into what it is today.
Great. Thank you. Let's get into the round robin. Everybody gets about maybe 2 minutes and 15 seconds at this point to let the listeners at home or those watching on our YouTube channel or on our Access Humboldt broadcast channels, just whatever they want to know, either about Uplift or whatever you'd like. It's your time. Let's start with Cynthia. You got 2-ish minutes.
Okay. I just want to encourage everybody to come and take a look and see what we can do. We can, I think, do almost anything anyone needs. I can't change the weather, but I can help you find a dentist. I can help you search for a job. We can help you find employment. I can turn you on to Sierra, who's going to teach you every trick you ever needed to get a job. And our outreach workers are always available to help with housing, coordinated entry efforts. And I think that this is we're working with we're not trying to replace anybody, but we're trying to augment the services provided in Eureka. And I have seen a steady stream of people come in here, and the same stream of people walk out with smiles on their faces and paperwork in their hands, and basically got accomplished what they came to get accomplished. So I encourage people to come anytime, Monday through Friday, 10 to 2, and ask for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Cynthia Bowman. Sierra.
Hey. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm super excited with the opening of a resource center because it means there's a lot more opportunity for us to develop new programming and connect with other partners to find out what we can offer here that's going to best serve the community. So one of the programs that I run is our co-pilot volunteer program, which pairs volunteers with community members in need to have kind of a one-on-one mentorship-like relationship while working towards goals. So if anyone is interested in becoming a volunteer for that program, I'm actually holding an orientation to that next Tuesday, the 25th, I believe, from 12 to 1 o'clock at our resource center. So I'd encourage anyone who's interested in learning more or is just even curious about volunteering in other ways with Uplift Eureka to come down and learn more about what that looks like. We're really in a stage where if there's somebody who wants to volunteer their time and offer a particular workshop here, maybe help folks with creating resumes, or if somebody has another passion that they want to assist folks with, this is a good opportunity to develop that and work together to be able to offer that to the community, whether it's an art workshop, wellness, empowerment or support, all those sorts of things. Please contact the Resource Center, and we definitely want to build up that community to increase that. Also, I'll just mention for the employment workshops, if somebody is looking for work, I currently hold resume building workshops Tuesdays from 10 to 11 o'clock. And interview tips workshops on Thursdays from 10 to 11 o'clock. Other times, folks are still welcome to come into the Resource Center and either work on the computers on job applications and get some one-on-one assistance as long as staff are available. So there's specific workshops happening Tuesdays and Thursdays, but other times folks are still welcome to come in and access those services as available.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jeff.
All right, I just want to give a big shout out to our outreach team. It's one of the core components of this program. It really is kind of the tip of the spear. They're going out, they're meeting folks where they are. They're just a phenomenal team, and I just want to show my appreciation to them. We have other volunteer opportunities as well. We have a Old Town Stewards program, which is a great way to volunteer and to kind of enrich the community here in town. And also our community partners, the Humboldt County, Betty Quan Chin, the rescue missions, the St. Vincent de Paul. We really, we wouldn't be where we are. We wouldn't have accomplished all the things that we have without that community partnership, and that's so important. And and also, Uplift Eureka, it's a group of about 10, 11 city employees, but it's not just us. We couldn't have done this without the support of our elected officials and our city leadership, as well as, I mean, in one way or another, every single department in the city supports us, whether it's our HR team, whether it's our finance department, or public works keeping our vehicles going. It really is. It's not just us. It's the entire city is really pulling together and supporting this program and keeping it going. So I just want to show my appreciation to all of everyone that works with us and I want to also thank you and Access Humboldt for kind of giving us this, outlet, and we just really want more folks to be aware of what we're doing here in Uplift and what the city's doing. And please come down to the Resource Center and check it out.
I want people to know more about this too. So thank you for having it, creating it, pushing it forward, making sure it works. Because if there's one thing the city has needed in the past, it is a resource center. There's a shortage of social workers. And I feel like a lot of what's going on here and what I'm hearing is something that in the past social workers would do for people. And we don't have them. We don't have the medical health professionals, the social workers, etc. So a hub like this is amazing. Thank you so much to Cynthia Bowman, Resource Center Coordinator, Jeff Davis, Supervisor of Uplift Programming and Specials Project Supervisor for the City of Eureka. Thank you so much to Sierra Wood as well, Homeless Service Coordinator. You three are incredible people, and I really appreciate the work you do. And I'm hoping that those listening really take advantage of this. You don't have to just be from Eureka. Go to uplifteureka.com. Call the number 707-441-4242 to get in contact with Uplift Eureka, or go in Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. 1111, that's 4 ones, 1111 E Street, Eureka 95501. That's about all the time we have today. Thank you to our panel, and thanks to those who are in Eureka who are helping make this happen, and all of the county as well, and for anybody funding these projects, because that's amazing too. We'll be back next week with another Thursday night talk. If you have topics or suggestions for the show, email us at kzzh@accesshumboldt.net. And fun reminder, the show replays Friday evening at 8 p.m. right here on 96.7 FM. You can also watch this show on Access Humboldt's YouTube channels, or if you have broadband for some silly reason, great, turn it to channel 12. We'll be playing throughout the weekend. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm your local host, Talvi Fried, and I'll see you next time.